If you have pieces of Ankara fabrics at home, this Bubu patch dress is something you should try out. Hi lovelies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Seth's Fashion. In today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful Bubu patch dress. Please watch to the end, like, share and subscribe. This right here are the Ankara fabrics I'll be using to create this design, and I'll be combining 5 different pieces. Okay, so this right here is the fabric I'll be using for the top part of this dress. I'm making use of 1.5 yard. Also, this brown one right here is what I'll be using for the down part of this dress. I'll also use 1.5 yard for that. For the middle design around the neckline, I'll be using this beautiful piece right here. You don't need much for this one, you just need about 1/2 yard. For the band and frills, I'll be using this beautiful blue fabric here. This is 1.5 yard. And also for the extension around the sleeve, that is the edge of the sleeve, I'll be using this beautiful piece right here. 1/2 yard should be enough for that as well. After I have all that sorted out, I'll place these other pieces aside while I work on the upper piece. I'll go ahead to fold this fabric into 4 because I intend to cut both the front and the back piece together. Okay, you can see the way I've placed my fabric. This side right here, it is not opened. That is because this dress does not have any opening in the middle, so ensure that you are taking your measurements from the enclosed side, from the side that does not have any opening. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark the neck width, and the neck width I'm using here is 3.5 inches. If you're on the smaller size, make use of 3 inches, but if you are on the bigger size, you can make use of 4 inches. This is for a medium size, so 3.5 inches works just fine. I'll be marking the neck depth for the back first, and the neck depth I'm using is 1.5 inches. Go ahead and connect the 2 points together to form the neckline. Now for the front neck depth, this is the V neckline, so I'll be making use of 8 inches, and then I'll connect together to meet the 3.5 inch neck width we have right there. So that is it for the neckline. Moving forward, we'll be marking our shoulder measurement divided by 2 on this shoulder line here, and then from that point I'm going to mark how long I want my sleeve to be. For me, I want to make the sleeve length to be 15 inches, but remember that we have an extra layer of fabric at the edge of this sleeve, so for that extra layer I'll make it 5 inches. So I'm basically just subtracting 5 inches from 15 inches. That will give me 10 inches. I'll be marking that just after the shoulder measurement there. At that point now, I'll be dropping it by 1 inch to create the shoulder slants, and then I'll draw a straight line to meet the end of the neckline, just the way you see me do here. After I'm done with that, we're going to mark the sleeve opening, and to know how wide this sleeve should be, you can use your bust point measurement as a reference. For me, I'm making use of 11 inches. So I'm just basically extending the measurement I have at that top point so I can have a straight line. Go ahead and connect the 2 points together to form your sleeve. So after I'm done with that, we'll go ahead and mark the length of this top, and I'm making use of 25 inches. You can do that as well, or you can decide to mark it at your hip line, but 25 inches works just fine. I'll be adding 1/2 inch to that 25 inches because you know we're going to be joining this piece to the down piece. Okay, so 1/2 inch should be added after that 25 inches for joining allowance. After marking that, go ahead and connect all your points together like this. Now if you look at this dress clearly, it kind of has like a cowl around the waist and hip line. So to achieve that cowl design, I'm going to be dividing my hip measurement by 4, and then I'll add 8 inches to that. Whatever I have, that is what I'm marking at that hip line there. Now to get that cowl shape, I'll just mark 1.5 inches at this point, and I'm going to curve it in, then curve it out to meet that hip point. That's basically all for this top part. Now let's go ahead and cut out this piece, and we'll first of all cut out the back, then separate the back from the front before we cut the front. So you know the neckline here is what differentiates the front and the back, so I'm cutting that first, and every other thing remains the same. By the time I open this up, this is what it looks like. You can see that it's a whole piece. There's no opening in the middle. Okay, so you should have something that looks like this by the time you cut out. So after I'm done, I'll separate the back piece from the front piece, and then I'll cut the neckline for the front. And this is what it looks like by the time I open this up. So next thing now is to cut the down part, and I'll be bringing over the fabric, which is this brown one. I'll be placing it underneath the top piece and aligning everything accordingly, making sure that the center fold is on a straight line. Next now, I'll transfer the measurement I have along that hip point to the down part as well. And note that we need ½ inch to join to the upper part, so I'm just ruling out ½ inch so that I'll know that my measurement is going to start after that ½ inch point. Now, to determine how long this down part should be, my client wanted the total length of her dress to be 52 inches, so the top part is already 25 inches. I'm just basically going to subtract 25 inches from that 52, which is 27. So what I have on this down part right here is 27 inches already. I don't have so much left because normally I will add 1½ inch for hemming allowance, but I'm just going to make use of the total length of this Ankara fabric. Now, to know what to mark down, you're going to measure what you have on that hip area, and you're going to subtract 3 inches from it, or better still, you can divide your hip measurement by 4 and add 5 inches. That is what you're going to be marking at the hem of this dress. After you've got that, go ahead and cut out accordingly. So that is it. This top part is going to be joined to the down part in the middle here by ½ inch. So what I'm doing here, I'm opening this up so that I can separate this top part, because we need to have one for the front and one for the back. Okay, after I'm done, I'll place that aside while I work on the facing for the front piece. I'm going to bring over the fabric I intend to use for the facing, and I'll be placing it underneath the front piece we initially cut. So note that this fabric I'm using for the facing is folded into two. You can see that. So what I'm going to do, I'm tracing everything exactly the same, and after I'm done, I'll separate the front piece from it while I determine the shape of this facing. At the shoulder point here, I'm going to mark 3 inches, and note that I'm going to be folding it inwards to give it a nice finish. So I'll be adding ½ inch to that 3 inches. So I'm marking 3½ inches at that shoulder point, and then to get a straight line, I'm just basically measuring what I had. Initially we had a neck width of 3½ inches plus this 3½ inches we have marked on that shoulder point, that is 7. So I'm transferring 7 inches down so I can have a straight line. Now from the bottom here, I'll be going up by 4 inches, and then I'll connect everything together before going ahead to cut out. Now when you're done cutting, you should have something that looks like this. You can go ahead and leave it straight, or you can give it shape however you like it. It works just fine. So for me, I'll just be folding it along the edge right there. That's how I would prefer mine to look like. So by the time I put it on top of my main piece and I fold in the bottom edges, it should look like this. You can see how beautiful it looks, right? I'll take this over to the ironing board and fold it round by ½ inch so that's going to be easy when I want to sew. I'll be doing that all round except the shoulder point. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on the back piece. This is the fabric again I'm using for the back facing. I'll go ahead and put it underneath the back piece. Again, I folded this piece into two. I'm just going ahead to trace the neckline and shoulder point. Now at the shoulder point, I'll be marking the same 3½ inches that I marked for the front, but down here I'm going to be marking 5 inches. Then I'm going to connect together with a curve just like this, and then I'll cut out. After I'm done cutting out, you should have something that looks like this. I'm going to bring over my front facing, and I'll be placing right sides facing each other, aligning them at that shoulder point. Then I'm going to be sewing together by ½ inch at the shoulder. Okay, so you also take this back facing to the ironing board and iron the edges by ½ inch so that it's going to be easy when you want to sew on the main fabric. I'll bring over my top pieces, the front and the back, and I'll be aligning them as well, right sides facing each other along the shoulder, and I'll be sewing down with ½ inch just like I did for the facing. Okay guys, I've gone ahead to hold down my shoulder point, and I've taken this over to the ironing board. I've ironed down my edges, just giving it the shape I would like it to look like on my outfit. So this is what it looks like I've also gone ahead to sew down the 1/2 inch along the shoulder on the main fabric, and I'll be placing my main fabric wrong side facing up, just the way you see me do here. And then I'm going to bring over my facing and place the right side facing my main fabric. That is, I have the wrong side of my main fabric facing the right side of my facing, okay? And then I'm going to be sewing along that neckline all around by 1/2 inch. I've gone ahead to hold it down on my machine with 1/2 inch, and this is what it looks like. I'll go ahead and give it little notches so that by the time I want to turn this, it's going to lay down flat. So this is me notching it all around. Then I'm going to turn this facing to the right side of my fabric. Arrange everything nicely just the way you want it to look like, and you're going to take this over to the ironing board and iron down the neckline to lay down very nice and flat. Also, you're going to be holding this down. I like to hold down this facing first before taking it over to the machine to top stitch, because it saves me a lot of time and it makes my work look neater. So what I'm going to do is to bring over my hemming gum. This is what the hemming gum looks like. I'm going to be placing it underneath the facing on the fabric. So I'll take this to the ironing board and give it a nice press. By the time I press the hemming gum underneath the facing, everything is going to lay down. Even without stitching, it's going to lay flat. So by the time I take it to the machine to sew, it's going to be very easy and it's going to come out looking really neat. Next thing now is to attach the edge of the sleeve, and I went ahead to fold my fabric into 2. The length of the sleeve I subtracted when I was drafting this sleeve was 5 inches. So on fold, the width is 5 inches. I went ahead to add 1/2 inch to that so that I can attach this to the main fabric. Ensure that the extension is cut long enough to be able to sew round the width of this sleeve. After I'm done attaching the sleeve, you can see that I went ahead to weave it nicely, and I attached for both sides of this outfit. So the next thing now, I'll be attaching the band directly on my fabric around the hip. Okay, so this is the piece I'll be using to create the band and the frills along this point. If I open my fabric like this, it's cut by 5 inches, but by the time I fold it, it's going to be 2.5 inches, and I cut it very long so that it can be able to fit all around this hip area. You can see the way I'm placing this band. The side that is opened is facing downwards, so I'm just going to top stitch the enclosed side on top of the main fabric from one end to the other. So normally I would attach this to the back as well, but the fabric I have here is not enough. I'm just basically trying to manage it, so I'm not going to be attaching it at the back. I'm just going to attach this only to the front, but if you have enough, you can go ahead and attach this same band to the back as well. I also went ahead to cut out frills that I'll be attaching on this dress, and the width, if I open it up, is 5 inches. On fold is 2.5 inches. The length of this frill is 15 inches long. I'm going to sew at one side and at the bottom, leaving one side open so that I can turn it inside out. After I've stitched it down, I'm just going to be turning this inside out, and when I'm done, I'm going to take this over to the ironing board to give it a nice press. I've gone ahead to cut out different pieces. About 15 to 20 should be enough for this project, depending on how full you want it to look. For me, I cut about 15 pieces. That was because I did not have enough, and it still looked really good. And if you want, you can leave it straight like this. If you want a different unique design, you can twist it at the top there before sewing down, but I like mine straight, so I'm not going to be twisting. I will just arrange them just the way I want them to be sewn here, so that you can see how I'll be attaching this. So if you notice, I did not start putting my frills at the edge of this dress. That's because there's going to be sewing allowance at that side. So just try to centralize the frills so that everything can be uniform from beginning to the end. With my 15 frills that I had, I was able to distribute them on this hip line accordingly, and the spaces I had between each edge was equal. Hope you understand. The next thing now is to attach the down part, and to be honest, I wasn't feeling this Ankara at that point. I was like, no, this doesn't even match. I had to go and get another Ankara to match with what we have at the top. So this is the Ankara I'll be replacing that with. It's so beautiful, and I think this matches better. So I'm just basically going to place our previous down part on top of it to trace out exactly the same. But remember that we kind of had some shortening because the Ankara we were cutting wasn't enough, so we didn't even add allowance. We're just basically working with the length we had. So I'm going to be adding that 1.5 inch allowance at the hem for this Ankara because this one is longer. So I'm tracing every other thing the same. I'm also opening up this top part here because we need one for the front and one for the back. So after I'm done, I'll be marking the wrong and right side so I know which is which. And then I'll bring over the top part here. I'll be pushing up these frills. And then I'll bring over the down part, aligning the hip lines together. Remember, the hip line is wider than the hem, so ensure that you are not mixing them up. So I'm just going to be placing it on top like this, right sides facing each other, aligning all the points, making sure that it is straight. And then I'll take this over to the machine and sew down from one end to the other. I'll also open this up and I'll be attaching to the back as well. I'll be aligning along that hip point and I'll be sewing from one end to the other with 1/2 inch. After sewing, this is what we have. You can see how beautiful it's looking already. I think I actually made the right choice. This Ankara looks way better. It looks really nice. The next thing now is to sew the sides, but then my client wants a pocket for this dress, so we'll be drafting out the pocket and sewing together before joining the sides. Now to draft the pocket, I'll bring over a fresh fabric and I'll be folding into 4 because I need to have 4 pieces to be able to make 2 pockets. I'm going to mark out a straight line here which will serve as the beginning of the pocket, and from that point I'll be measuring down 8 inches which will serve as the pocket opening. Now the length of this pocket is 12 inches and the width I'm using here is 10 inches. You need to make it so wide to accommodate your hands. So I'm just going to draw the shape like this. It's very easy, guys, and then you are going to cut out. After cutting out, this is what we have. We're going to mark the wrong size of this pocket so that we know which is which when we're placing them on the main fabric. Now we're going ahead to attach the pocket on this dress and I'll be placing it right side facing up. I'm going to measure 18 inches from the shoulder and that is where I'm going to start placing my pocket. And then I'm going to bring over the cut pocket. I'll be ensuring that I'm placing right sides facing each other. I'm making sure that the part that is very curved is facing downwards, and I'll top stitch following the shape of my dress from the beginning of the pocket to the end. I'll do that for all the 4 sides of this dress. After attaching the pockets, this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and push it outwards like this, and I'll be aligning the sides of my dress. You can see that I have it right sides facing each other. My dress is on the wrong side right now, so I'm just going to be sewing this with 1 inch sewing allowance all around from the sleeve. By the time I get to the pocket area, I'm just going to push my stitch inwards and I'll be sewing around the pocket. By the time I come to the end of the pocket, I'll push it back into the dress and sew down to the hem of this dress. This is what it looks like after I'm done attaching and sewing everything in place. You can see how beautiful this looks. I've not even ironed it yet, but it looks so beautiful. The last thing to do now is to go ahead and hem the down and your dress is ready to be rocked. So guys, if you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share with your friends that you think might like this video, and do well to subscribe to my channel. Turn on notification bell so you get notified when I upload new tutorials like this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next tutorial. Bye.